After 50, most couples discover something they were never really warned about. Your body starts rewriting the rules of intimacy without asking permission first. For many women, menopause brings changes that can make desire feel unfamiliar. Sleep is lighter, emotions are closer to the surface, and comfort can become complicated. For many men, the body may not respond the same way it used to, and that can stir up quiet worry, pride, or even shame. And for almost every long-married couple, there's a moment when you realize you're both thinking the same thing, but neither of you knows how to say it out loud. So tonight, we're going to say it out loud, gently, respectfully, and without embarrassment. Welcome to Markle's Quiet Wisdom. Thank you for spending this time with me. Whether you're listening while washing dishes, sitting in your favorite chair, or beside the person you've shared decades with, I'm grateful you're here. This is a place for calm, truth, and steady hope, wisdom for life, love, and the years ahead. Because intimacy after 50 isn't just about sex. It's about the feeling that you still belong to one another. It's about being able to reach for your spouse and feel safe. It's about not turning into roommates when life gets heavy. And it's about learning a new kind of closeness, one that fits who you are now, not who you were at 30. What makes this stage hard isn't only the changes themselves, it's the silence around them. Couples who have handled everything: mortgages, kids, job losses, grief, illnesses, family dramas, sometimes find themselves stuck over something that feels too awkward to talk about. They don't want to hurt each other. They don't want to sound needy. They don't want to admit fear. So they keep it quiet, and that quiet can create distance. But when couples learn to face these changes together with tenderness, honesty, and practical care, many discover that intimacy doesn't end after 50. It matures. It softens. It becomes less about proving something and more about sharing something. Less about performance and more about presence. Tonight, I want to offer you 4 real truths about intimacy after 50, truths that many couples experience privately, but rarely name openly. And after each truth, I'll share a gentle way forward, shaped by what real couples have learned the hard way, and then found their way back. The first truth is the one most couples misunderstand at first. Desire changes, and it's usually not about love. For a long time, desire can feel automatic. It shows up when the timing is right. It feels familiar. It feels dependable. Then one day, it doesn't. A woman's body may change in ways that make sex uncomfortable or emotionally complicated. A man may notice his confidence slipping because his body doesn't cooperate the way it once did. And both partners, without meaning to, start interpreting biology as rejection. It's not unusual for a couple to start telling themselves stories like, "She doesn't want me anymore. He must not find me attractive. Maybe this is what getting old looks like. Maybe we're done." But most of the time, what's happening isn't that love has disappeared. It's that the body is asking for a different approach. I think of Sarah and David. They'd been married for nearly 3 decades, the kind of couple people described as steady. They raised their kids, they paid their bills. They rarely fought loudly. They were good at life. But somewhere in Sarah's early 50s, her sleep began to fall apart. She felt hot at night and tired during the day. Then intimacy started to hurt. Not always, but enough that she began to dread the idea of it. She didn't want to disappoint David, so she started making excuses. Headaches, long days, maybe. Tomorrow, David tried to act normal. At first, then his thoughts started doing what thoughts do when they don't have answers. They began creating conclusions. He stopped initiating. He stopped flirting. He started working later. And when he wasn't working, he disappeared into his workshop, sanding wood and fixing old tools like he could repair something that had quietly gone missing. Sarah noticed the distance and assumed he was angry. David assumed she was uninterested, and neither of them wanted to bring it up because both were afraid of what the conversation might confirm. One evening, Sarah sat on the edge of the bed and watched him scroll on his phone without looking up. She finally said, very softly, "Do you even miss me?" David froze. The phone lowered a little. He didn't answer right away. And when he did, his voice sounded tired, like he'd been carrying something heavy for a long time. "I miss you all the time," he said. I don't know where I fit anymore." That was the moment. Not a dramatic fight, not a grand confession. Just one honest sentence that cracked the silence open. A week later, Sarah mentioned her symptoms at a routine appointment. She expected a shrug. Instead, her doctor asked questions, heard questions and explained that there were practical options. Different treatments, moisturizers, therapies, small changes that could reduce discomfort. Sarah went home with something more important than a prescription. She went home with permission to take her body seriously. That night, she told David, "It's not you. I've been scared, and I didn't know what to do." David exhaled light. He'd been holding his breath for months. "I thought you were pulling away from me," he admitted. "I thought I was losing you." They didn't fix everything in one conversation, but they stopped blaming love for what biology was doing. And once that blame lifted, they could work together instead of against each other. If this truth feels familiar, here's the gentle way forward. Treat the body like part of the team, not the enemy. Ask calmly, "What's been changing for you?" Not with accusations, not with pressure, but with curiosity. And when something is uncomfortable, physically or emotionally, don't try to power through it. Look for solutions together. Talk to a doctor if you need to. Try small adjustments. Make room for patience, because a changing body is not the end of intimacy. It's the beginning of a new language. The second truth is one many couples only understand after they've been struggling for a while. Intimacy gets wider after 54. Some couples, sex becomes less frequent. For others, it becomes less predictable. For many, it becomes something that requires planning, comfort, and a slower pace. And if your entire definition of intimacy is only intercourse, you can start to feel like you're losing closeness altogether. But intimacy isn't one narrow doorway. It's a whole house. It's touch that doesn't demand anything. It's a routine that says, "You're still my person." It's being emotionally reachable. It's small, predictable kindness. After 50, many couples find that the most reliable intimacy is not always sexual, it's relational. And when that relational intimacy grows, physical intimacy often follows, with less fear and more safety. Margaret and Robert learned this in a season that surprised them. Their life had become smaller in quiet ways. Robert's hearing wasn't what it used to be. Social gatherings became exhausting because he was constantly trying to keep up with conversations he couldn't fully hear. Margaret's hands began to ache, more often arthritis. The kind that makes evening plans feel like a chore. Their world shrank. They stopped going out. They stopped hosting. And without intending to, they stopped reaching for each other. 2. Not because love was gone, because life felt heavy and they didn't know where to put the weight. One night, Margaret washed dishes, while Robert sat in the living room. The television played, but neither of them was really watching. Margaret looked over at him and felt something that startled her. Loneliness. Not the lonely feeling of being alone. The lonely feeling of being beside someone you love and not being able to reach them. She turned off the faucet and dried her hands slowly, like she was deciding something. Then she walked into the living room, sat beside him, and rested her hand on his forearm. Robert looked down at her hand like it was a message he'd forgotten how to read. Margaret didn't say much. She just said, "I miss us." Robert swallowed hard. He nodded once, slowly, and whispered, "Me too." The next day, they tried something simple. After dinner, they started sitting on their porch, swinged for 20 minutes. No phones, no television, no chores, just the two of them in the evening air. At first it felt awkward. They didn't have a script. They were used to talking about logistics, appointments, groceries, what needed fixing around the house. But after a few nights, Margaret began telling him about her day in small details. The neighbor's dog barking, a memory that came to her while folding laundry. Something she'd been worried about but hadn't said out loud. And Robert began sharing things he hadn't been sharing. "I hate not hearing people," he admitted one night. "I hate feeling like I'm fading out of the room." Margaret reached for his hand. "You're not fading," she said. "You're here with me." That porch swing became their bridge. It didn't solve their bodies. It didn't erase stress. But it rebuilt closeness in a way that made everything else feel possible again. If this truth speaks to you, here's the gentle way forward. Create intimacy you can count on, not intimacy that depends on energy, confidence, or perfect timing. Start with touch that feels safe, a hand on a shoulder, holding hands during a show, a kiss that isn't rushed, sitting close without expectation, and build rituals, small ones. 10 minutes of coffee together, a short walk, a porch moment, a bedtime check-in. Because when you build a reliable space for connection, desire often returns not as pressure, but as warmth. The third truth is one couples rarely connect to intimacy until it's already taken a toll. Money and health worries can quietly steal closeness. When you're carrying financial stress or health uncertainty, your nervous system is not relaxed. Your body is braced. Your mind is busy. An intimacy requires a sense of safety. After 50, couples face new pressures, retirement calculations, medication costs, insurance decisions, changing energy levels, chronic pain, new diagnoses, and the quiet question nobody enjoys asking: what happens if something gets worse? Even when you don't say it out loud, your body feels it. And sometimes, couples stop being intimate not because they don't want each other, but because they don't feel safe enough inside their own life. Linda and James found themselves. James developed a health condition that required regular medication and lifestyle changes. Linda worked part-time, and their budget was tight. At first, they told themselves they'd figure it out, but the stress was always in the room. It showed up in small irritations, short tempers, silence that lasted too long, and a strange feeling that intimacy had become a luxury they couldn't afford. One evening, James snapped at Linda about buying the wrong kind of groceries. Linda snapped back that he never appreciated anything anymore. Then the fight turned into something else, something bigger than groceries. They both went quiet. Later that night, Linda sat at the kitchen table with bills spread out and her shoulders trembling. James walked in and saw her wiping her face quickly, like she didn't want him to notice. He didn't say, "What's wrong?" He said, "Show me." Linda looked up. "Show you what?" He pulled out the chair and sat down. "Show me what you're carrying." That was their turning point. Not romance, not passion, partnership. They began having a money meeting. Once a month, a calm one. No blame, just facts. They wrote down expenses. They looked at options. They asked questions. They found small programs that reduced costs. They adjusted priorities. They stopped treating money like a private shame and started treating it like a shared problem to solve. And something unexpected happened. As the uncertainty lowered, their tenderness returned, because anxiety had been stealing their softness. If this truth feels close to home, here's the gentle way forward. Planning can be an act of intimacy. Make space to talk about health and money like teammates. Not in the middle of a fight. Not late at night when you're exhausted. Choose a calm time. Sit down. Write things out. Make decisions together. Even small planning, organizing medications, scheduling checkups, budgeting for comfort. Improving sleep can restore the feeling that you're safe together, and safety is fuel for closeness. The fourth truth is one that becomes more real with every passing decade. Grief and independence are part of intimacy now. After 50, couples don't just grow older. They carry more. There are losses: parents, friends, health, old identities, old dreams, old ease. And there is also independence, new time, new freedom, new interests, new versions of self. One partner may feel energized by retirement while the other feels unanchored. One may want adventure while the other needs quiet. One may be grieving the past while the other is ready to build something new. Those differences don't mean you're incompatible. They mean you're human, Carol and William learned this after a season that changed the rhythm of their life. William retired and felt relief, like he could finally breathe. Carol, around the same time, lost her mother, and her grief was deep and slow. William wanted to travel. Carol wanted the world to stop moving for a while. At first, William tried to be patient. Carol tried to be fine. But under the surface, they both felt misunderstood. One night, William set a brochure on the counter, some scenic trip he'd been excited about. Carol glanced at it and felt something rise in her chest. Not anger, exactly. More like loneliness, she said quietly. "You want to leave?" "And I'm barely holding myself together." William's face changed. He stepped closer. "I don't want to leave you," he said. "I want to take you with me, but I don't know how to help you right now." Carol's eyes filled. "I don't know either." That was the moment they stopped pretending the other person should feel the same way. They started a weekly practice. One evening a week, they sat together and each answered 2 questions. One thing I'm grieving is. 1 thing I'm still hoping for is. Sometimes Carol's grieving was heavy. Sometimes William's hope sounded simple. But over time, those 2 questions gave them a shared language for a season that didn't have easy answers, and something softened between them. Because intimacy isn't only built through pleasure. Sometimes it's built through shared sorrow and steady presence. If this truth speaks to you, here's the gentle way forward. Make room for both grief and growth. Don't force the same timeline. Don't interpret differences as rejection. Ask instead, what do you need from me right now? How can I be close to you in this season? When couples learn to grieve together, they often become closer than they ever were when life was easier now, after these 4 truths. Let's talk about what this means in real life, practically, gently, and without pressure. The goal is not to get back to the way intimacy was when you were younger. The goal is to create intimacy that fits who you are now. Start with one honest conversation. Not a lecture, not a complaint, a conversation. Pick a calm moment, maybe during a drive, maybe after dinner, maybe while sitting together in the quiet of the evening. Say something simple. I miss feeling close to you. I want us to feel safe with each other. I don't want this topic to be a lonely one. Then listen, not to argue, not to defend, just to understand. If there are physical concerns, pain, discomfort, performance anxiety, treat them like health concerns, not personal failures. Explore solutions with a doctor if needed. Try what helps. Adjust what doesn't. Remove shame from the room and expand what intimacy looks like. Give yourselves permission to build closeness through touch that doesn't have an agenda, through routines that create warmth, through laughter that returns. Slowly, through small kindness that says, I still see you. Also protect your energy. Sleep matters. Stress matters. Medical care matters. Financial clarity matters. Sometimes intimacy isn't missing because love is missing. It's missing because exhaustion has moved in. So take care of the foundation. Even a few small changes, screen time at night, a calmer bedtime routine, a weekly check-in, a shared walk can begin shifting the emotional climate of your home. And if you ever feel stuck, remember, getting help is not weakness. Sometimes one conversation with a counselor, a doctor, or a trusted professional can remove a barrier you've been carrying alone for years. As we come toward the end of our time together tonight, I want to slow down. There's something sacred about loving someone through time. You've already loved each other through so many versions of yourselves. You've carried responsibilities. You've survived hard seasons. You've built a history that no one else fully understands. And here you are, still trying. That alone says something beautiful about your marriage. Intimacy after 50 is not a test you either pass or fail. It's a relationship you continue to learn. It's the choice to stay emotionally reachable. The choice to be gentle with change. The choice to keep turning toward each other even when your bodies, your schedules, your energy, and your seasons look different than they once did. And if you felt distance, if you felt awkwardness, if you felt sadness around this topic, you are not alone. You're normal, and your story is not over. Thank you for listening tonight. Thank you for caring about your marriage enough to have this conversation in your mind and heart. I know these topics can feel tender, and the fact that you're here means there's still love in the room, still hope, still possibility. This is Markle's quiet wisdom for life, love, and the years ahead. If this episode gave you comfort or clarity, I invite you to stay with us. Subscribe so you don't miss the next conversation. If you're willing, tap like. It helps this message reach other couples who may be quietly struggling too. And if you know a husband and wife who would feel seen by this, share it with them gently. And as you move into the next few days, I'd like to leave you with one simple question, one that can change the direction of a marriage when it's answered honestly. What kind of closeness would feel safest for you this week, and how could you invite your spouse into it?